Who is ready to make their mark bloom? Let's use Animation-ish FabMaker Studio and get published for this challenge. Starting with Animation-ish, we'll do a 3-frame challenge. Using Wiggledoodle-ish, we can start our project. Wiggledoodle-ish has 3 frames. So let me think, what word can I draw and illustrate? I'm going to select the word bloom. First, I'm going to change my brush size by using the slider, and I'm going to select a color. I like very bright green, so I'm going to select that one. On the first frame, I'm going to write the word bloom. Now hitting next brings me to the next frame, and I'm going to trace over the word bloom, but make it a little bit different because I'm going to wiggle. That's right, I'm going to turn the O into a flower, and I'm going to add some leaves on the M and the B. Now my last frame, I'm going to really make this word bloom. Now once I'm done, I'm going to add a tulip. So once I'm done, I'm going to save it, and then I'm going to hit play and watch it move. Look at that. Now I'm going to share this. If I hit share, I can save it as an MP4 and then send it to my grandma. And there is my animation. Now we're going to weld together shapes in FabMaker Studio to create a flower. Go over to FabMakerStudio.com and log in with your credentials. Now we could start with a ready-made project, a step-by-step project, but I'm going to select a new project. And I'm going to hit the landscape and OK. Now this opens a new blank screen. On this screen, I can create anything, as long as it uses shapes. So I'm going to select this circle because the center of a flower usually starts with a circle. And I'll make it bigger or smaller by moving the sides around. You can see what I'm doing here. And now let's think, what do I want to use for the petals? Now traditionally, petals could be ovals or triangles maybe. So let me grab an oval from this shapes palette. And I can move around the size of this oval. You can see I'm changing the size of it, changing the width and the height to make it look like something I want to use and as a flower. But I think I'm going to use hearts. So I'm putting this heart here, and I'm just going to play around and move around with some of the hearts. I might speed this up a bit so you guys aren't just watching me move around hearts, but there's a few tricks. If you click the properties panel, you'll see that there is a tool that has 2 faces on it. That's a reflection tool, and that allows you to reflect your shape. So you can move your shapes around with the reflection tool, either reflect the left or the right or the top or the bottom, and that gives you an exact duplicate of your shape. So let's speed this on up a bit and we'll make our flower. So we're moving shapes around and we're resizing and we have a flower. Now, I want this to be one solid shape. So I'm going to select, click, and then select all the shapes, and then click the Weld tool. The Weld tool is underneath the magnetize tool, so underneath the magnet, and when you select it, it takes all overlapping shapes and turns it into one solid shape. So this is the start of my flower, but I think I need to have a stem. So let's think. What shape would I use from the shapes palette to make a stem? I think I'm going to start with a square and turn it into a rectangle. So using the Weld tool, I created a stem, and now I'm going to create 2 flowers because you know what? I want to make a flower message. I think I might turn this into a happy spring card or a Mother's Day card. So let's see. If I want this to overlap, this is where I have some problem solving to do. I think I'm going to add a little semicircle to the top. Weld that on, and that's going to create a little flap that when I print it out, I can overlap it. So that's going to be the front. And then, see, this is where the engineering design process comes into play, because you start thinking through, if I want to do this, what do I have to do? How do I have to design this? Now I know that I'm going just to print this out on my color printer. So I want to have a circle in the middle of the flower, so it will look like a flower. And I'm going to put that here because that's going to be the top, and that will be the back. And now I am going to print it, and I'm going to make sure that the print and cut fold lines and the remove color fill is selected. And then I download my PDF and I send that to the printer. And when I'm done with it, I will print it out, cut it out. I will cut along the red lines, and I will have this beautiful flower. In fact, I'm going to write Happy Spring inside of it. So this is my Fab at School flower. You can also work with ready-made projects in Fab at School. So let's select ready-made projects and go over to 3D stuff. I'm going to click on the flower project. Now this flower project has 3 pages. You can see I'm moving back and forth between the 3 pages. So there's the outside flower, the inside flower, and then the stem in the leaves. So I'm going to see how the stem's going to fold. Do you see that? That's pretty cool. So the green lines are fold lines. The red lines are cut lines. On our other project, we only really had red lines, but this one has green lines. So what you're going to do is you're going to send this to your color printer, or if you have a silhouette, you can send it to your fabricator. But if you don't, send it to your color printer. And once it prints, you're going to fold along the green lines, cut along the red lines, and make your flower. For our last project, we're going to jump into Get Published. So go to getpublished.education and go over to My Studio. When you're in My Studio, this is where you can start writing any book you can imagine. This is going to be a book called In My Garden, where I write about what's in my garden or what I imagine could be in my garden. Now, I'm going to go on the front cover and I'm going to select My Art, and then I'm going to select Upload Art, find my photos of my garden, hit Open, and it will end up in My Art. So I can upload more photos in here. I'm going to do a couple because I know I'm definitely going to use some photos. So I'm going to select, this is my garden. This is actually my garden from last year, but we won't judge. I hope this year it looks just as beautiful. And now I'm going to hit the text tool. I'm going to write my story. This is going to be called In My Garden. And I'm going to make it white so it shows up over the photo. And let's see. Oh, title page, front cover, sorry. I'm going to move my In My Garden over to the side so you can see it. I'm going to add my name to this because I'm proud of my work. If you're exploring and Get Published, you know that Peter H. Reynolds talks about how, your name matters and what you write matters. So this story about my garden, it matters to me, and hopefully it brings some people some joy. I'm going to move my name down underneath my title, and there we go, In My Garden. Now let's go over to first page. And on the first page, I'm going to change my text color, and I'm going to write, In my garden, right now, there are lots of flowers. So I can move this around on the page. I can adjust the size of it. And then, as I said, we can always add more photos. So on page 1, I'm going to add some photos of flowers. Now this is actually on my doorstep, but a doorstep's kind of a garden. So this is the start of my story, and I can't wait to read what your stories are. So this week, as you start to explore FabMaker Studio, get published in Animation-ish, let's share your stories. Send them on over. Let us know how you're doing and what you're creating. So thank you for creating bravely with FableVision Learning, and I can't wait to see the projects that you create.